The warm, golden rays of the midday sun streamed through the windows of Riverside Middle School, casting a soft glow on the polished linoleum floors. It was early autumn in Atlanta, Georgia, and the air buzzed with the restless energy of eighth graders filing into room 3002 for math class. Among them was Jamal Carter, a 13-year-old black boy with a quiet demeanor and a mind that often wandered far beyond the classroom walls. Jamal sat near the window, his sharp brown eyes fixed on the world outside, a world of swaying trees and chirping birds that seemed far more captivating than the slow, repetitive drills of his math class. His posture was relaxed, almost too casual, with one arm resting on his desk and the other propping up his chin. But beneath his calm exterior, Jamal's mind was a whirlwind of numbers and equations, far more advanced than anything his classmates, or even his teacher, could imagine. His notebook, though mostly blank on the assigned pages, was filled with intricate equations and solutions scribbled in the margins, a testament to his hidden talent. At the front of the room stood Mrs. Amanda Thompson, a no-nonsense teacher with years of experience and a reputation for high expectations. Her tailored blazer and neatly styled hair exuded authority, and she prided herself on pushing her students to their limits. But today, her patience was wearing thin. The results of the latest math test lay in a stack on her desk, and while a few students had excelled, most had struggled. As she handed back the tests, her sharp gaze landed on Jamal's paper, a perfect 100%. Yet, his apparent disinterest in class frustrated her. How could someone so gifted seem so indifferent? Jamal Carter, Mrs. Thompson's voice cut through the chatter, snapping Jamal out of his reverie. He jolted upright, his heart racing as the entire class turned to look at him. "You seem very interested in what's going on outside," she said, nodding toward the window. "Care to share what's so fascinating?" The room erupted in muffled laughter, but Jamal remained silent, unsure of how to respond. Mrs. Thompson wasn't smiling. "Let's see if you've been paying attention," she continued, her tone sharp. "Come up here." The classroom fell silent as Jamal slowly rose from his seat, his chair scraping against the floor. His classmates watched, with a mix of amusement and curiosity, some whispering under their breath, others stifling laughter. Jamal's palms were sweaty as he walked to the front of the room, the weight of their eyes making the distance to the whiteboard feel impossibly long. Mrs. Thompson wrote a complex equation on the board, one far beyond the scope of their current lessons, and handed him the marker. "Show us what you've got," she said, her tone challenging. Jamal stared at the equation, his mind racing. The whispers and quiet laughter behind him only added to the pressure, but something inside him stirred. A small voice, reminding him of the countless hours he'd spent solving problems just like this one. This wasn't about Mrs. Thompson or his classmates. It was about him and what he knew he could do. Taking a deep breath, Jamal raised the marker and began to write. At first, the class didn't react. Some students had expected him to freeze or give up, but as the numbers and symbols on the board began to connect, murmurs spread through the room. "Wait, is he actually doing it?" a girl whispered. Jamal's hand moved faster now, the squeaks of the marker filling the silence as he broke the equation into smaller pieces, isolating variables and simplifying fractions with precision. The room grew quieter, the whispers replaced by wide-eyed stares. Even the boy who had laughed earlier was now leaning forward, his mouth slightly open in disbelief. When Jamal finally stepped back, the whiteboard was filled with neat lines of equations, each step leading to the correct answer. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, the room erupted in applause. Jamal's cheeks burned, but this time it wasn't from embarrassment. It was from pride. Mrs. Thompson studied the board, her expression shifting from surprise to respect. "This is correct," she said, her voice quieter than usual. "What you just saw wasn't luck. This is what happens when someone takes the time to understand the material." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Jamal's classmates, once skeptical, now looked at him with admiration. Even Mrs. Thompson seemed different, her sharp edges softened by a newfound respect. After class, she pulled Jamal aside. "I owe you an apology," she said, her tone sincere. "I misjudged you. You have a gift, Jamal, and I don't want to see you hide it." That night, Jamal sat at the kitchen table, his notebook open in front of him. His parents listened intently as he recounted the day's events, their eyes glistening with pride. "We've always known you were special," his mother said, squeezing his hand. "I'm so glad other people are starting to see it too." His father nodded. "This is just the beginning, son. Don't be afraid to show the world what you can do." As Jamal stared at the blank page of his notebook, he felt a quiet certainty settle over him. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of being seen. He was ready to step forward, to see where his talent could take him. The boy who had once hidden his brilliance knew that he was ready to shine.